first things first, what you're wanting to do is lay out your old t-shirt. So I hope the camera might not be able to fit it all in, but I'll do my best. So the first step, when you've got your t-shirt laid out, is you want to cut off the arms. Now this, you can literally just follow the seam of the arms going round, and make sure you get both the front and the back pieces of fabric in. And this is where having fabric scissors ideally does come in handy, because they'll be sharp enough to cut through both the back and the front, but any sharp pair of scissors will do. And all you're doing here by cutting off the sleeves is creating the handles, and you can save these scrap bits of fabric, like they'll come in handy. Like you can make the scrunchies out of these in the previous video if you wanted to, so it's always good to just keep scrap bits of fabric like this around. They'll come in really handy. So what you're essentially creating in this first step, by just cutting off the sleeves, you're just turning the top into a tank top. So if you think about it that way, there's not too much to worry about. This is super simple. Just follow the seam to create the handles. Great, so once you've done that, you should be left with a t-shirt that's sleeveless. Like that, it looks like a tank top. Now, let's move on to the second step. Now for the second step, what you're going to want to do is, taking your scissors, cut out the neckline. Now this is to make the opening of your bag. So obviously the higher you cut your neckline, so if you were to just follow it round here exactly, which is fine, it just means that your bag's going to have a shorter opening, if that makes sense. It's not going to be as long. So if you want to make it a bit deeper, you just cut a bit further down, but basically you're just cutting in a semicircle, making sure that you get the front pieces, back pieces of the t-shirt at the same time. So what I'm going to do is, because I want to make sure I've got some of the print still on, I don't want to cut into that too much, is I'm just going to cut around the neckline. There we go. There you go. You can see now you've got a tank top, no neckline. You can see already how it's taking on that shape of the bag. Right, so now that we've done that, storming ahead here, now that we've done that, we can move on to making the bag itself out of fringe. Now, moving on to step 3, just lay your t-shirt out, and what you want to decide here is how long do you want your bag to be. This will also depend on what material your t-shirt's out of, so that's a good thing to bear in mind, is if your t-shirt's made out of almost like thinner cotton, it's going to stretch more when stuff's put in it. So yeah, just bear that in mind. This fabric's not too stretchy, so I'm going to say I want my bag to come to about here. And so this is how you can decide how much fringe you want. If you really want to, totally optional, you can draw a line along here, so you know how far you want to cut your fringe into. But I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. I'm just going to kind of make a mark with my scissors, and yeah, so that's roughly how long I want my bag to be. And then what you want to do is, when you've decided that, take your scissors, make sure you've got both the front and the back of the shirt, and cut up the side of the seam of the shirt, just to that imaginary line that we made, and then literally leaving about an inch, maybe not even completely an inch, a bit smaller than that, just inch wide bits of tassels going up. So let me move this over so you can see. So I cut along the edge, so you're going to end up with bits of fringe like this, just 2 bits of tassels. And what you want to do is just keep going with this all the way across that line that we made, whether you actually marked it out or you did it by eyeball. So I'll show you again. Both pieces of fabric, just go up to that imaginary line. Now it doesn't have to be too neat at all, because basically what you're going to do is we're going to tie these bits, these 2 pairs of fringes together. We're going to tie them into knots, and that's what's going to close the bag. So I'll just do a few more cuts. These pairs of fringes, yeah, just under an inch wide. Really depends. Obviously, if you want thinner fringes, then yeah, by all means, just cut them thinner. But it's super quick when you've got the hang of it. Just keep cutting. Right, I'll carry on with this and I'll show you what it looks like when I've got all my fringes ready. Okay, so now that you've cut all your pairs of fringes all the way down, you should have something that looks like this. So this is just where that imaginary line was, and you just cut up to it and cut in your pairs of fringes. Now what you want to do is to tie them. Now this might seem a little bit complicated at first, but honestly it's not at all. So what you want to do is take a pair of fringe, so the front and the back of the shirt, and first of all, just really simply tie each pair into a knot. So the front and back, just tie them with a knot as tight as you want. Obviously make it a bit tight so they don't fall out, so things don't fall out of them. But don't worry about it being a double knot or anything like that. So yeah, so that's the first step, is just tie the front and back pairs of fringes together. So I'll just show one more. Just keep going like this until you've done the whole row. So I'll do that and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so when you've tied all of your pairs of fringes together, you should have something that looks like that. So it's literally just the front and back pairs tied in a simple knot, nothing too crazy. You can see already how it's starting to look like that bag. But the issue is the fact if you were to just leave it like this, there's actually holes. So things are just going to completely fall through. If you put like pencils or anything in here, it's just going to fall through. So in order to bypass that, what you want to do is lay your pieces of fringes out like this, and then what you want to do is go and tie them all again, but the top piece of fringe, so if you see here from where I've laid it flat, the top piece of fringe here on the left is going to tie to the bottom piece of fringe from the knot next to it, and this will make it cross over and close that gap. So the top, so that's the top, that's the bottom of the first pair of fringe. This is the top and the bottom from the fringe next to it, from the pair of fringes next to it. And what I'm going to do, take this top one, take the bottom right one, cross them over and knot. And that closes the gap. And then It's literally the same thing all the way through. You take, just got my tangled there. You take the top piece, the bottom piece to the right, knot, and this just closes the gap. And so you just keep on doing that, top, bottom, knot. And as you can see, that starts to close up the holes. Right, so I hope that makes sense. It can be, people do find it easier when doing that if you just lay them all back out again. So if you get your pairs of fringes and you lay them like this, so you can see it a bit more easy. So you can see like, oh, that's the top and that's the right on the next pair. So I'll tie it like that. So I hope that makes sense. I'll carry on doing that and then we'll be done and I'll show you the final product. Right, so when you've done, you should have something that looks like this. And yeah, that's everything with it. Just make sure that those knots cover those gaps. They should do if you follow it where you just hit the top and the bottom, tie it, close that gap up, no problem. And yeah, this is just a super fun little project that you can literally do in 10-15 minutes. And it's a really good way just to upcycle your t-shirts, give them a new lease of life, and help save the environment as well whilst you do it. So yeah, so thank you all for watching. Please remember to go donate, sign up to become a Red Rebel for Period Poverty and Red Rebel Day. That will be taking part on the 21st to the 22nd of March. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.